All right, welcome to the weekend video. This is End here. We're going to run through the markets and we'll see where we stand, what happened this week, and see where we stand for next week. Okay, this is the 4-hour euro dollar chart, and you can see that I'm kind of, well, over the last week, we've been kind of shifting between two possible outcomes at the moment. I want to concentrate kind of a little bit a little bit more heavily on the alternate count right now. And that would view a larger wave 2 still underway. So the idea being that we have a 3-wave rally in wave A complete, and now we have a 3-wave decline in wave B with the possibility of a 5-wave rally into wave C to complete a larger wave 2. So if that's the case, then there's a reasonable possibility that we have that we should expect a rally back up to about 113 to 114 area, given that we have pretty significant resistance up there at 114 to 114.11. So somewhere in that region could terminate a C wave. So what we need to do next week is to look for a sign that this C wave is about to get underway. Okay, so let's get into the hourly chart and we'll see how we might do that. Okay, get out of the way, you. Okay, euro dollar hourly. Here we have this decline off the alternate wave A high. Now, for the moment, I haven't changed or switched to this alternate count yet because the main wave count still fits. So until it's been ruled out, I think we'll just keep chugging away with it. I mean, it hasn't failed per se yet. I think if we get a break above this interim low here at 110.85, that could be enough to shift focus towards the alternate count. But for the moment, we're still, the main count was calling for some sort of a correction higher in a 4th wave before declining again into a wave 5. So, both wave counts calling for a rally, and we get a rally. So that's not a reason to switch wave counts just yet. But if we do get a break of 110.85, and especially this previous low at labeled wave 1, which is back here, this wave 1 low, and that comes in at 112, let's say 112.23. If we get a break of that high, or sorry, if we get a break of that low, 12.23 you are, that level would be a strong indication that the alternate count is underway. Okay, but for next week, the main focus would be identifying whether that alternate count is more fitting or not. We seem to have a little bounce off that lower trend channel. If this develops into a 5-wave rally and then we get a corrective decline off that, that would be the main signal. But in terms of the alternate, if we get a break of 110.85, I think I'll focus on that possibility of a rally in wave C. Okay, so pound dollar. The action is kind of similar yet different in cable. Expecting a second wave to close out. I've kind of switched back and forth between wave counts over the last week or so because this jumble of a mess here has kind of necessitated that. But for the moment, I still think we've got 5 waves down and we are correcting in a rally, correcting higher in a second wave, and then we should fall in a third wave soon enough. Okay, here's the hourly chart. You can see that large second wave here. This mess that's kind of, let's say, confused matters over the last while has, I think, concluded in a triangle. So we may have A wave down, 3 waves up in B, 3 waves down in C. How you read that? It could be D and E, maybe. It's quite small, I know, but small but perfectly formed, maybe. The possibility of a B wave triangle, and then we're going to spike higher out of that. So um, I suppose can't really confirm this C wave rally until we get a break of that interim high there, and that would be at what is it? 131.70 or so. And if we see that break, well, then wave C is most likely what's happening. And once wave C completes up around the minimum target would be up there at 132.83. That'll be the wave A high. And once we hit that level, we'll look for a return lower down to begin wave 3. Okay. Let's see. That's cable done. Dollar yen is another perplexing one for the last while, but I think we're moving into a kind of a conclusion for the moment. We've had a nice rally, which we were looking for, and this correction has kind of extended, which I wasn't looking for. Okay, so you take the good with the bad. That's the 4-hour chart. We're looking for this 1-2 pattern to kind of close out, and then a rally in a third wave again. Okay, so here is that 1-2 pattern. Wave 1 up, wave 2 down. You can see it's hard to. The rally was so sharp that it's kind of hard to pick out the exact top and bottom of wave 1 here. So I'll go for the initial move off into wave 1, a very slight correction, wave 2, and this portion here does seem to break out into 5 waves. We had a corrective move off that high, probably suit wave 4 more than the previous correction I was looking at, and then possible 5-wave move higher into wave 5. So more fitting as a 5-wave structure rather than a 3-wave structure anyway, and hence the reason for wave 1 up. The decline off that high, we could say A, B, C down in A, and a running flat wave B, and then possibly 1, 2, 3, a gap lower in wave 3, probably some sort of flat correction wave 4, and into the high double top there, and then drop into wave 5. So where do we stand right now? If this is wave C, we may have 5 waves complete in wave C. We've hit the 61% or 62% retracement, let's call it, and we got a spike higher again. So the odds are starting to mount in favor of a rally in wave 1. We'll just have to see how the day goes. The low of Thursday's session came in at, let's get a price on that, 108.57. So 108.57 has to hold. As we call it 108.58 because 108.57.6. 108.58 has to hold, and we should see a return higher again to break that 109.26 level, which would be good. And obviously the breakout above that 110 or 110.28 level will signal that wave 3, the larger wave 3. So I've got wave 2 here. The larger wave 3 was underway. Okay, so next week again, I'm looking for that 5-wave rally to indicate wave 3 has begun. Okay, stocks. Yeah, a bit of a kind of a roller coaster this week. Still kind of the jury is out on whether we've got 5 waves down or whether that is still unfolding. Kind of in the camp that it's we have 5 waves down still unfolding at the moment. So let's see how that plays out today. It's still the early market is selling, or the pre-market is selling. So it looks like we could have a down day today, depending on how that goes. The 4-hour chart is looking for 5 waves down to indicate possible trend change underway. Okay, so the hourly chart here, I'm showing well, there's kind of a mix of interpretations for the recent action. We could have a triangle underway for wave 4, so we've got possibly a failed fifth wave here, or the all-time high was wave 5, and we have some sort of maybe a leading wedge here in wave 1. It's a kind of it's a tough one to call, to be honest. I'm leaning towards that failed fifth high. So if that was the case, then we've got a cleaner decline off that failed fifth. But pick your top. We've still got a nice impulsive so far decline off that high. Okay. Okay, where do we go from here? I was talking about a possible triangle wave 4 last night. That's still on the cards. It could also be a running flat or some sort of a flat wave 2. So that's kind of the less likely. That's the less likely interpretation at the moment. We'll see how the action goes. The early market is down, so we're still running within this triangle scenario. So if wave 4 traces out a triangle, that'd be A, B, C, D, and E. It would be somewhere in the region of let's say 28,860 or something like that. And then we should see another spike into a new low, which would be down around 28,350 or something, or 28,300 maybe. If we did get a full decline back below initial support there, that 28,100 level, then I would be very willing to just go all in on on calling the top again. But hey, we'll just have to wait for this action to clear up and see if we can identify that kind of second wave corrective high. And if we do identify that second wave, bearish lower high, well then we'll be kind of odds on for a pretty significant decline in wave 3 or a third wave down. Okay, so for next week, or for today, Friday, and early next week, I want to see this triangle close out, and then a decline into a fifth wave to get 5 waves down. That'll be the focus for probably, well, today and most of Monday, I would reckon. Probably even into Tuesday. Okay, let's move on. We've got gold next. So the 4-hour chart in gold is calling for a renewed rally eventually. Once we get out of this, again, a second wave correction. It looks like we've got a B wave rise underway right now. There's actually a couple of ways that we could view this, given the way that the action has kind of played out over the last day or two, and I'll get into that in a second. But it is possible that we have either a second wave correction, or maybe this is a small minor fourth wave correction. That would be interesting as well. If this was a fourth wave, that would suggest that a rally in wave 5 is imminent, and we should probably push up to about 1700 before that completes. Okay, so 4-hour chart is showing maybe a 1-2 pattern within wave 5, or alternately we could be looking at a 3-4 pattern within wave 5. So let's get into the hourly chart and see how that might work out. We show the top here of wave 1 that comes in at 1611. 3 waves down in A and a possible 3 waves up in B. That does suggest that we get 5 waves down to come in wave C. That's the main count at the moment. So I'm kind of, let's say, short-term bearish with the very large looming fifth wave third wave of 5 that should come our way pretty soon. But I am kind of I'm willing to allow for a a C wave to decline back into support there at 15.35 to complete a larger three waves down in wave 2. Now this alternate triangle idea, that would call this high the high of wave 3, and then we would have, oh gosh, that's terrible. 3 waves down in A, 3 waves up in B, maybe C, D, and E, maybe. It could also allow for this to, if that's wave B high, this might be wave C, D, and E. So we could continue to contract if this overall move is a triangle. We could continue to contract for the better part of next week, probably up to about Wednesday before we rally again. If that's the case, let's look at some trend lines where that might lead us. We'd probably get some sort of range contraction into about 1568 or so again, and then look for a rally in wave 1, probably wave 1 of 5 at that stage. But either way you splice it, I think this action here is corrective, and I think we will begin to rally again probably by the middle of next week. Allowing for a declining wave C would bring us back down to 1535 again, and at that point then we'd look for wave 1 of 3 to come about. Okay, so next week, a reasonable possibility that we get another decline in wave C. We'll have to see if this triangle idea actually holds up, and if we continue to see this kind of tightening of the range, then this imminent rally, or the rally, will become more imminent, and will probably begin by the middle of next week. Okay. Crude oil doesn't want to find a low. I have been searching for a low in a possible wave 1 of 3. So, just like back at the previous high, was looking for a high and it didn't seem to want to come, and then all of a sudden we got this pretty serious, crash in crude oil over the last few weeks. And right now, at this moment in time, it looks like we should be putting in an interim low and a correct higher, if that hasn't already begun. Let's get into the short-term chart. Suffice to say, I think we'll go to the daily count. I think we have begun wave 3 down. I've been looking for this wave 3 down for a while, but I think the action recently does fit with an acceleration lower into a third wave, and that should bring us, down below 42 again, as this continues to trace out. But like I said, we have some kind of caveats to fill, or some positions or some points to fill before we move down to threaten those previous lows here, that wave 1 low. Okay, so let's get into the hourly chart for crude oil. Here's that series of 1-2 waves that I'm looking at right now. That'll be the main count. So wave 1 and 2 in green, then we've got a nice 5-wave decline, 1, 2, go away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down into wave 1 of 3. So wave 1 and A, B, C, possibly in wave 2. So this correction is looking for a rally back above 54.36 again in wave C of 2, and then a decline lower again in wave 3. So that'll be larger wave 3 green here would unfold into 5 waves. So you can see that as wave 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5 of 3. The alternate at the moment is looking at this possibility of a 1, 2, 3, and then an unfolding 4th wave at the moment. So Yeah, it's pretty reasonable, I think, at the moment to look for, well, a continued correction, holding in around the lows in the alternate count, but probably going no higher than 55, I would say, in this C wave scenario, and then towards probably Wednesday next week, a further decline back into either wave 3 or wave 5 of 1. And if you can make sense of that, well done. Okay, so the current action is corrective, I think, to the upside, um, either in a second wave or a fourth wave, and then we should see further declines to complete a 5 wave move lower. Okay, so crude oil, uh, we might see some relief for a couple of days, maybe into Tuesday evening next week, but we should resume declines by the middle of next week, I think. Okay, the S&P. I like the wave count in the S&P a little bit better because it's a little less ambiguous so far, and we are selling early market again in the States. Um, Even though we had some stellar results from Apple yesterday, um, it seemed to kind of chew that up and spit it out, and just complete a 3 wave correction, which is what we were looking for. Okay, so we'll just get into the short-term count. I think the long-term count, it's just we're mapping the top here, and we just want to see if this actually unfolds into an impulse wave, and gives up the ghost on this bull market. Okay, the hourly chart, you can see we've got decent, or let's say a more reasonable 5 wave structure lower in wave 1 here, and a 3 wave correction higher in wave 2 into the overnight high, or let's say the aftermarket high yesterday, and that seemed to touch off the trend line. And then pre-market this morning, we're selling again, so this could be the beginning of a wave 1 of 3 if that unfolds that way. The reason I like the structure in the S&P better than the structure in the Dow is we're not dealing with any failed fifth wave here. We're dealing with a singular new high at the top, so that was 33.37, and off that new high we had wave 1, 2, 3, possible triangle wave 4, and then drop into wave 5. And then off that low, we seem to have a 3 wave correction higher. So, all going well, we are completing a bearish signal here. And if we get a lower degree 1-2 move off this wave 2 high, then we should probably prepare for a larger decline next week. So today's action and Monday's action is pretty critical, I'd say, in the S&P. Let's see if this wave 2 holds today and we continue to move lower. If we threaten that 32.33 level again in a nice 5 wave form, well then I think next week will be looking pretty interesting. Okay, to close it out, S&P should be forming an impulse wave to the downside, and we will see early next week whether we get a further lower degree signal to point the way. Okay, let's get into silver. I'm liking the action in silver at the moment. It looks like we have a 3 wave correction complete, and we had a nice spike higher over the last couple of days with a correction off that high right now. So for the moment, we are pointing up in silver, and this rally should continue up towards, I would say, up towards that $22 level in a possible fifth wave, as shown here. Okay, let's get into the hourly chart. Here you can see we've got 3 waves down, and that breaks out into a flat, I think a flat correction. So we've got A, B, C down in A, B, C up in B, and then 1, 2, 3, possible fourth and fifth wave. And at that low, we were looking for, we didn't quite reach the trend channel, but we turned higher in a spike. And today we've got a reasonable 5-wave move, I think, up in wave 1, and an ongoing second wave here, a possible 3 waves down in wave 2. So if we see wave 2 close out after 3 waves and then a rally again, which breaks that previous B wave high, so we're looking at 1834 as a pretty key trigger level for the bullish count. Look for 5 waves up to break that 1834 level, and then we should be able to form a bullish signal in wave 1 and 2 next week, pointing to a further rally in wave 3. So yeah, the short term is looking high and looking higher, and we should see that 1737 level hold at wave 2. So looking for a rally in wave 3. Let's see how that works out. Okay, let's get into bonds, and bonds have been kind of posing their own head-scratching questions over the last couple of days. We have seen rally after rally. I still think this could be a C wave up, but we're going to have to see some serious or significant and sustained declines over the next few days in order to kind of solidify this short-term count. But I think we're kind of in flux at the moment. Still looking for this wave 2 to top out, and looking for 5 waves down to complete. I'm going to have to leave that because I think we are, could bonds continue to rally? Yeah, I mean, hey, it's the market. People will do what people will do, and especially if they get fearful in the other side of the risk asset market. If stocks start to crumble, if high yield starts to crumble, there'd be no reason to say that people won't just run headlong into bonds again. Well, especially when you have the Fed kind of choking up so much of the short-term market. No reason why people wouldn't just run into the 10-year, run into the 5-year, and push yields lower and push prices higher. So it's kind of, I'm just hands off at the moment here on the 10-year bond. We'll just see how it plays out next week. Okay, I think that rounds it up. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks so much for hanging on for the week, and let's resume next week and see if we can pull some sense from this crazy world. Have a good weekend. God bless, and we'll see you Monday evening. Bye-bye.